Morning. New rules on claiming disability benefits come into effect today. This involves personal independence payments, or PIPs. It means that people whose mobility is limited because of mental health conditions will not be entitled to receive the mobility component of PIP, even if they are limited in getting around in the same way as someone with a physical disability. Labour estimates 160,000 people will lose out as a result of these changes. Labour MP Debbie Abrahams is here. She's the Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Also with us, Sophie Corlett from the mental health charity Mind, and Alice Kirby, who says she will be affected by changes to PIP when she is reassessed. And we also had asked Conservative MP Richard Graham from the Work and Pension Select Committee to come on the programme. He had agreed to come on this morning, but in the last half hour has pulled out because he says he has other engagements. We also, by the way, asked for an interview with the Work and Pension Secretary, or the Minister for Welfare Delivery, or the Disabilities Minister, or the Employment Minister, or the Minister for Welfare Reform. None was available. OK, let's start with you, Alice Kirby. What do you think about the new rules, first of all? Good morning.
Hi. I think it's really telling that none of these Tory MPs are coming on, or ministers. I mean, they're just completely unjustified, and that is why they won't be coming on today, because they can't explain them. There's no justification for them.
Why do you say they're completely unjustified?
So, well, for a start, the Tories keep saying over and over again, don't worry, this is only going to affect new claimants. That's completely false. It will affect current claimants, and they seem to be hiding that, and I suspect that's something that they're trying to hide.
Well, I'm not sure that's right, Alice. It will not affect people who are currently claiming.
Okay, so what they've said is it will only affect new claimants, but they've made changes to the legislation, which means everyone that's currently on PIP, who will be reassessed, and we're all reassessed, whether it's every year or every few years, everyone's reassessed. We will all be reassessed under this new criteria. I myself get points for both not being able to manage my medication and for having psychological stress when travelling. So when I'm reassessed in a year or two's time, I will come under this new criteria, and therefore I will be cut as a result. I've worked out I will be £87 a month cut from my mobility because of this.
I understand. You're saying you believe when you are assessed again, and it happens every so often, that things will change for you, even though you are a current claimant.
Yes, well, it happens regularly, and that I believe that is the case. It's not that they're saying, oh, we're going to have two pieces of legislation, one for old claimants, one for new. They've got one piece of legislation that they've changed, and that's why I'm pretty sure it's going to affect everyone that's currently claiming.
But yeah, that's fair enough, Alice, but just to repeat, the DWP say the changes won't affect existing claimants, but we hear what you're saying, Alice.
I don't think it will immediately, but it will be when they get reassessed.
I understand. Sophie Corlett from the mental health charity Mind, what do you think about these changes?
They seem to be completely unjustified. I mean, I absolutely agree with Alice. The whole point of PIP is that it should be there to support the extra costs of your disability. So it's not about whether you're in work or out of work, it's about whether you have difficulty travelling or difficulty with other things. And it should be covering the extra costs of those things that you need to do to live a normal life. And it shouldn't depend on whether your extra costs arise from psychological distress or from being blind or from having a physical difficulty. If the costs are the same, the point of PIP is that the funding that you get should be the same. And they've just gone out specifically to rule out psychological distress as a reason for these particular things. It's baffling.
Are people who find it difficult to leave the house because of anxiety or panic attacks as restricted in their independence as someone with a physical disability?
Absolutely. I mean, your condition may vary, as it might indeed for many physical conditions.
Yeah.
So there may be days when you're better able or less able, as indeed for very many other conditions. But if you can't leave the house, for instance, because of hypervigilance, because of panic attacks, because of really severe agoraphobia. So we're talking about significant psychological distress that would actually prevent you from leaving the house without support of some sort, then you are as stuck in your house as anybody else.
How do these changes, which are being brought in today, fit with that big speech on mental health that Theresa May made in January, where she said, quote, "For too long, mental illness has been something of a hidden injustice in our country, shrouded in a completely unacceptable stigma and dangerously disregarded as a secondary issue to physical health."
I think this is absolutely one of those issues, dangerously disregarded as a secondary issue to mental health, to other types of physical health. And I mean, the new regulations specifically exclude psychological distress. They don't say if you aren't able to leave the house, it doesn't matter. They say if you aren't able to leave the house and psychological distress is the reason,
then you don't qualify for the mobility component.
So they acknowledge that people can't leave the house.
Yeah, Sophie, I'm going to put this to you. Your boss is Paul Farmer. He's the boss of Mind. He's doing some work for Theresa May on mental health and the workplace. Is he considering stepping down from that role in protest?
We're considering absolutely everything.
So he is considering stepping down from that specific work on behalf of the Prime Minister?
Broadly, we're considering everything. Our main concern is not to grandstand, step down from this, step down from that. Our main concern is to make a difference. And so our main concern at the moment is to change PIP. We don't want to sort of stop talking to people and, you know, sort of flounce off. We're keen to make sure that that changes. He's actually working on a review on something different, which is just as important. Exactly, just as important. So we don't want that work not to happen, but we also want to make a difference here. And we're also working with the government on things around health as well. You know, we're talking to them about a lot of different things, and I mean, really, you know, there is so much that needs doing on mental health.
In terms of making a difference, Debbie Abrahams, on behalf of Labour, you have completely failed to make a difference on this issue.
No, I think we're certainly increasing momentum. If you
They're
remember,
brought in today. The changes are brought in today. You have failed to stop them or amend them.
they were introduced 2 weeks ago, Victoria, and if you remember, they were introduced during a by-election. They were sneaked through.
It took a week for the Chancellor to change his mind on national insurance contributions rises.
And one of
You've
the
had
reasons,
2 weeks.
And one of the reasons that we're on this programme today and trying to get as much media attention around this issue is to draw attention. I think most people will be absolutely horrified that 23 charities, including Mind, are absolutely opposed to them, weren't engaged, that the government's own Social Security Advisory Committee has borne out what Alice has said, that this will affect those that are currently receiving PIP. This is so serious. There has not been, the way that they've been sneaked through has prevented any debate. The Secretary of State refused yesterday, when I brought in for the second urgent question to the Commons, has refused to have a debate or a vote on these. As I say, most people will be absolutely horrified about what's going on.
To repeat, the government says the change will not affect existing claimants.
The Social Security Advisory Committee, their own committee, which they bypassed, they didn't consult with, said that is not the truth. I have the letter that they sent to Penny Mordaunt, the Minister for Disabled People, completely refuting that, saying they should think again, saying they should have a greater consultation with charities, with disabled people's organisation. It is absolutely outrageous. This is 7 years where cuts around Social Security are being particularly borne out for people on with disabilities, including
these are not
people
cuts, they say.
Well, their own equality analysis. It's not Labour's analysis. The government's equality analysis say 164,000 people with mental health conditions will be affected and that £3.7 billion will be cut. So that is the government's own assessment.
It won't be cut. It's not being cut, the government say. It's just that it won't be spent. So where would Labour get that over £3 billion from?
It's around different choices, Victoria. Is it acceptable that we are cutting corporation tax to 17%? It's already the lowest of the G7. That's £64 billion worth of cuts. These are choices. Governing is about choices, and these choices would not be the ones that we would be making.
Department of Work and Pensions say in a statement, recent legal judgments have interpreted the assessment criteria for PIP in ways that are different to what was originally intended. So these amendments will ensure that PIP supports those who face the greatest costs associated with their disability.
Yeah, that's absolutely not true. When PIP first came in 2012, we questioned specifically the government about people with psychological distress. We were concerned at that point that potentially people with mental health problems might end up, being treated slightly differently under PIP. They reassured us at that point that that was not the case, that people with mental health problems would be treated equally. Again in 2016, this came before the court, and again the government lawyers said, no, it's fine. People with mental health problems are treated the same under PIP. Now, this week, they say that both of those statements, over all that time, both of those statements were in error and a mistake.
Disabled people are twice as likely to live in poverty. We already know from analysis that's been undertaken that poverty for disabled people is increasing. It is absolutely shocking that this is the levels this government is stooping to.
Can I just say...
Final thought, Alice, yeah.
Yeah, so they're saying this isn't a cut, this is a cut. I currently get points because I meet those two criteria, and without them I will get less points and I will get cut during a future reassessment. It won't affect us now, immediately, it will affect us in reassessments. So the kind of rhetoric that this isn't a cut is rubbish.
OK. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much. And as we say, we would have liked to have spoken to a government representative, or even just a Conservative MP would have done, but sadly it wasn't to be.